The Olympic Games are one of the greatest remnants of ancient culture still maintained to this day. Consisting of various disciplines, it was a massive political, religious, and cultural event uniting the various city-states. So let's take a look at how the Olympics were formed, what were the disciplines, and how they ultimately evolved. The Olympics were just one of the 4 Pan-Hellenic Games that consolidated the very diverse Greek city-states. As evident by the notes from the athletes themselves, the Olympics were the pinnacle and were much more important than the other events. The games were so meaningful that the Greeks even used the Olympiad as a way to measure time in 4-year periods, so 8 years would be 2 Olympiads. Initially, the games were as much as an athletic event as they were a religious and cultural festival with its own artistic competition of various sculptors, painters, and poets. They originated most likely with the myth of Zeus and were thus held in his honor, sacrificing 100 oxen. Olympia was the site of the event, and unlike the modern equivalent, they were held in the same place every 4 years for centuries. The sculptor Phidias crafted a statue of gold and ivory of the god Zeus that was over 13 meters tall and was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. As far as we know, the first ever Olympics were held in 776 BC, and it was just one competition, a foot race. In the next 8 centuries, 22 new contests were added, although never more than 20 were a part of a single Olympiad. The base was the stare, a straight line sprint of 192 meters. Then the dialos was added, a slightly modified race where competitors ran in lanes and then turned around separate posts before returning to the start line. Furthermore, dolikos was added, a long race where athletes would run in laps, in total passing 7.5 to 9 kilometers. Additionally, the games were expanded to include combat sports, first wrestling, then boxing, and ultimately pankration. Wrestling was seen as the ultimate sport of athleticism and strength, honoring Heracles, where 3 throws to the ground were necessary for a victory. The competitors were usually naked and covered in olive oil, making it much harder to grip them. Competitions were held in elimination tournament styles until a single wrestler was crowned the victor. Next to wrestling, in 688 BC, boxing was added to the Olympiad. There are many different accounts to its origins, with Spartan claiming in one that they had invented it, although they quickly abandoned participating in the competitions, seeing them as dishonorable. The event itself was much different to what we have today. There was no ring, there were no rounds, meaning that fighters would go until one of them gave up or could no longer continue, and there was no rule to stop punching when they fell to the ground. Furthermore, no weight classes existed, and opponents would be matched by chance, often with significant disparity. Their hands were covered with himantes, leather strips, which only protected their hands but made the damage to the face much worse than as it would be with just regular fists. Finally, in 648 BC, pankration was introduced, which was the ancient version of MMA that we have today. Aside from boxing and wrestling, kicking and ground choking was also utilized. It was a brutal sport as everything was allowed aside from biting and eye gouging, although ultimately it was considered less dangerous for health than boxing. Other than that, there was horse and chariot racing, which was the most prestigious competition as only the richest could afford it due to the price of the chariots, the maintenance, and the horse transportation. Famously, in 67 AD, the Roman Emperor Nero competed in a chariot race, but as he fell from his chariot, he never finished the competition. Nonetheless, he was proclaimed a winner by saying that he would have won had he not fell. Ultimately, the pentathlon existed, which was a mix of many different disciplines, a single-day event in running, jumping, discus and javelin throwing, as well as wrestling. Overall, the Olympic Games were very important within Greek society and were even important later on within the Roman culture. As Greeks were an incredibly competitive society, they greatly valued athletes and winners, making myths out of them and sometimes seeing them as small-scale gods. Interesting enough, as far as we know, there were no second or third places, so within the Greek society, either you were first or last, there was no in-between. Still, the society's view shifted from some worshipping them and from philosophers like Aristotle seeing professional athletes as foolish, unhealthy, and having no point, although he greatly appreciated the physical fitness and what athleticism would mean for the military and the citizens in general. Aside from the sport, the Olympic Games were a great political event and were crucial for Greek unity. During the event, the famous Olympic truce was enacted, prohibiting any hostilities for the participants. Armies were forbidden in Olympia, as well as any legal disputes. This was meant to allow the athletes and visitors to travel safely, and in most cases, the truce was respected and was seen as sacred. The Olympiad played a crucial role in unity for Greeks, bringing many cities that were at war together and allowing for a sense of pan-Hellenism and solidarity. Ultimately, the games would continue to decline due to the massive changes in history and all the wars that occurred, but were nonetheless held until 385 AD, when the earthquakes and the barbarian invasions had reached the Olympia. Finally, in 394 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I banned them as a part of his prohibition on all pagan festivals and as a part of the spread of Christianity within the Roman Empire. Some sources indicate that they continued furthermore, but officially they were only revived in 1859 following the Greek War of Independence against the Ottomans, and in 1896 the Summer Olympics, the first ever international ones in all of modern history, were held. Overall, the Olympic Games are some of the most notable remnants that we have of ancient Greek culture that is today on a global scale. Thank you for watching. Check out what was life like for an ancient Athenian by clicking on the screen, and check out our Instagram page where we post daily facts. See you next time.